moving fast type of schedule. Brother Reggie, who is the executive director or head of the board, visionary of the Doug, could you come up, brother, and give us some words? If you've heard about, come on, give us brother a hand. If you've lately heard about the Frederick Douglass building, you didn't hear about it a few years ago when many people in our community gathered together and talked about putting the Doug on his deathbed. They got together and created a proper way that the Doug would die. I was present. Many of our city leaders were present at some of these secret meetings. I don't know how I got invited, but I was there. And I'm so glad your faith was stronger than so many people in our city that are in high places that did not want the Doug to continue and definitely don't want the Doug to happen. Thank you, brother. Let's give our brother a hand. Standing strong in our community. Would you give me a few words? We're going to bring Julian up. He's going to bring up Dr. Please, and we're going to get this started.
First of all, I just want to say welcome to everybody to the Frederick Douglass Center. This is home. And so I just want to say I appreciate the support over the years of being here. Started out as a regular board member and transitioned to be the board president for 5 years. And now I am the executive director. And so many challenges that we have faced thus far, and we are still climbing. I saw the hope, I saw the vision, and I just want to make sure that it's implemented, that it was taken care of, because this is ours. And so our youth, this is their place, a safe haven, and that's what it is going to be, and that's what it will be. And so I ask that as we continue to move forward, that we continue to support the center. There's a lot of things that I can't do by myself. And it's going to take us to rally together and to be able to rise up and to be effective and bring effective change to our community. And so I just want to say welcome, welcome, welcome. And without further ado, Julie.
And Julian serves as our spokesman for CSRN. We have Ruth Leonard, who is the lead of the administrative corps. We've got Jody here, raise your hand, Jody in the back, who serves as our treasurer. So if you give a penny, a nickel, or a dime, he will lock it down. Also, we have supporting staff and members, Marisha, Kadora, Mike, raise your hand, Mike. All right, we're going hard with qualified immunity and so many things. Before he introduces our sister, Dr. Patrice, you know, I printed out her bio and I ran out of ink on my computer. All right, I ran out of ink. You got more than I do, man. All right, but we got to hurry up. She already told us that she's on the schedule. All right?
I got you.
All right.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
That's the tradition of call and response. Listen, our lives, our hopes, our dreams, our future, and our votes matter. And that's why we're here tonight. I'm here to read the mission statement, and Dr. P, I'm going to introduce you. All Black lives matter. Queer Black lives, trans Black lives, presently and formerly incarcerated Black lives, poor working class Black lives, differently able Black lives, Black men and women's lives, immigrant Black lives, Black elderly and children's lives. All Black lives matter. We are the creators of this space. We throw no one under the bus. We rise together. Can I get an ashe? All right, we are the Community Solidarity Response Network of Toledo, formed on November 25th, 2014, the day after it was announced that the killer of Ferguson, Missouri police officer of Michael Brown, an unarmed teenager, would not be indicted. We bring awareness to the injustices experienced by Black men, women, and children who are disproportionately murdered, attacked, provoked, and harassed by law enforcement. Police brutality has to end. We bring awareness to the fact that most often, police brutality goes without consequence and accountability. Police impunity must end. We utilize the tactics of protest, civil disobedience, event disruption, and citizen advocacy to give voice to those who are otherwise voiceless. We facilitate progressive, community-based events to help foster self-development, and we discuss measures to hold local leadership accountable to their sworn duties, be they politicians, clergy, law enforcement, educators, etc. We want justice, equal justice under the law. We want justice applied equally to all, regardless of creed, class, or color. For all lives to matter, Black lives must matter, and injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. Patrice McLennan, in her research, focuses on leadership education, developing culturally competent leaders, and organizational change strategies. Dr. McLennan also co-authored the most recent book titled Her Stories, Leading with Lessons of the Lives of Black Women Activists. Her publication towards critical servant leadership in graduate schools of education, from theoretical construct to social justice practice, stems from her research on social justice and leadership practice. In addition, Dr. McClellan's research on faculty development using duonography methodology to integrate power and privilege and leadership in education is groundbreaking. Please give it up for our moderator this evening, the incomparable Dr. Patrice McClellan.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Everyone. I had a long time to prepare to get acclimated, but I will not, we'll do preacher minutes, right? So when we say half hour, hopefully we can stick to half hour, 45 minutes and not go an additional hour and a half, just to respect everyone's time because we are running a little bit behind. So to get started, I would like to welcome Mr. Yan Scotland forward. If you would like to take a And I believe how they have things set up, Mr. Scotland, each one of you will be able to have your own microphone. Am I correct?
Yes.
For
That's correct.
distancing, yes. So, and I will tell you, I am a germaphobe, so even though I am vaccinated, so, but yeah, that would be your microphone, and then you can have a seat right there. And then we have a write-in, Ms. Charmaine Ivy. And then,
Thank you, ma'am. 2 candidates.
and Ms. Charmaine, that will be your microphone for you, and you can have a seat right there. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna switch it up a bit because as we all know, there are 3 candidates on the ballot, and we do have a write-in. And since we only have 2 of them there, I'm gonna have them introduce themselves. I have a few questions that I will ask, and then I know that we have some questions from the floor. We will ask those, and then hopefully we can get some dialogue going. So I will get started, and we will go with ladies first. So, Ms. Charmaine Ivy, how would you like to be referred to today? Charmaine, okay. Charmaine, could you please introduce yourself and let us all know why you feel you would be the best candidate for the mayor of Toledo?
My name is Charmaine Ivy. I'm Toledo born and raised. I moved back to Toledo in 2015 after graduating Madonna University's School of Social Work. You know, it is culturally competent to go away as a young person and come back and give your skills, serve your community with your skills, And that's been my intention all along. When I came back, I got into the community meetings, did research on the school to prison pipeline, and improved a whole lot of practices, policies, and procedures within TPS that were causing harm generationally. I challenged authority, spoke truth to power, and faced and survived all the challenges that come along with that. I'm saying that back then is right now, and we have a great opportunity to build from a foundation of an apocalypse. We're building churches, schools. We need builders and minds of forward-thinking people who can lead the way. And so my intention of running as mayor is, after my research and challenging every position of authority in the city of Toledo and seeing the pushback, I haven't seen anybody else that I would recommend besides me. So that's why I'm sitting here. Thank you.
Mr. Scotland, how
Scotland. I was born in Harlem, New York, raised in Grove. Can you hear?
Bring the little buzzer.
Can you hear me better now? My name is Jan Scotland. Born in Harlem, New York, raised in Queens, went to school at Hampton University, the only black school in the nation. I have a degree in chemistry. I went to B.F. Goodrich when I graduated and worked as a chemist, became a chemicals purchaser, and then got headhunted to Owens Corning as supervisor of chemical purchasing. I started a business, insurance business, which I have run for 30 years successfully. And I would say some of my best accomplishments is, number one, I've ran the Sleepy Hollow Athletic League for 30 years, which helps at-risk kids find a safe place to have athletics and youth enrichment, as well as learn how to respect adults and people of authority. And that has worked well, and thousands of kids have gone through it. But on top of that, I've been married for 38 years. And I have 2 kids, and both of them are doing well. And that's probably my number one accomplishment. You know, the Lord says that one of the best things you can have on earth is a good spouse, and I do have a good spouse, and that is healthy. You know, I decided to run. If you look at Matthew, it talks about talents. And you have the guy that had 5 talents, the guy that had 2, and the one that had 1. The first 2 doubled their talents when given to them by their master. The third one buried it and got thrown in the dungeon. Over the last couple of years with COVID and everything else, I started feeling like I was wasting my talents. I was not using it the way I should have used it. And when I looked at the city and saw things going on, I decided that it was time. And I promised the Lord if I got through all of that, that I would work on using those talents to the benefit of this city. And that's what I intend to do. I also remember in Proverbs where it says, where there's no vision, the people will perish. And I think the people in Toledo right now are perishing because there is no vision in the mayor's office, and there is no vision in anybody else running for mayor. And I believe I have vision, whether it's good or bad, I'm going to put that vision to work, put it forward. And I'm going to try to make this city what it should be, which is a gem in the Midwest and an economic boom for the people that live here.
Thank you. One thing that I forgot to mention is that we'll try to keep responses to 3 minutes. And so the first ones we kind of went through, but we have a lot of questions to get through. And so 3 minutes, and I will be timing each of us. But you mentioned, Mr. Scotland, you mentioned vision, which is great because it segues into my next question. When we talk about a vision for the city of Toledo, we have seen renovations in certain parts of the city, and then certain parts of the city not so much. So please, starting with you, Mr. Scotland, give us a glimpse of what this vision specifically and tangibly looks like for the city of Toledo and all the occupants in it.
Just hold the microphone because we can't hear you back there. Yeah. You'll take it off the thing and then hold it.
Can y'all hear me back there?
No.
Okay, I can hear you. He's right next to me.
Did everyone hear the question?
Yes. Can you hear me?
No.
Yes.
Speak up.
I can speak up, but it should be working. It should be. It must not be. I don't think it's on.
It's not working.
Or you can use your big voice.
All right, let me try to talk to you out back there. First of all, the vision for Toledo is that we should be two things. One is a transportation mecca because we have transportation road-wise going north, south, east, and west. We should have our boats going up and down the river, transporting people. We can make a lot of people happy coming to Toledo just for that purpose. I think we can make that work. The other thing is we should be an entertainment mecca because normally, except for some of the things going on now, we have been a pretty safe place. And so we can bring people in, they can go to the casinos, they can go to Huntington Center, they can go to baseball games and stuff like that. There's a lot of money to be made just by having this be a destination like it was this past weekend. A lot of money to be made. But on top of that, for our community, we need to have a black zone. We need to have an area. You used to have an area down Door Street, if you remember, where we had shops and we had cleaners, we had all kinds of stuff going on. We need something like that again in Toledo. And I would work to make sure that we pick the right place and that we invite the right people to be there. This past weekend, people are going downtown, they're going to different places, they're being bused. There's nowhere to bus anybody to go and enjoy the things that we have in our community. Nowhere. We had vendors setting up a block or two down from Inverness, and they had no business because it was cut off and everybody was directed to a certain place. That shouldn't happen here in Toledo. There should be a place where people know they can go, they can get soul food, they can get buy clothes, they can buy artwork, they can do all those things. Those things need to be in place. And I will work hard to make sure we have a zone like that here in Toledo.
Thank you. Charmaine, same question. What is your vision for the city of Toledo, and what would that specifically and tangibly look like?
Okay, so where it stands now is the incumbent mayor calls Islington and Detroit Avenue Vision Zero. And so we have to be real specific with words when we have leaders calling anything in Toledo Vision Zero. And so as far as Jan is talking about transportation, I'm glad he mentioned that because in January of 2020, I was down at City Council with Kim Dunham, the general manager, and Daniel, her one of her leaders, talking about 24/7 transportation in the city. We seen the hours taken away during COVID. We see the extended hours now. So when Yan says stuff like you can't get anywhere in Toledo on the current system, I said, oh yes we can, because that's been my primary transportation study in Toledo for the last 4 or 5 years. So it's an emic perspective that I've studied Toledo. I haven't just sat in boardrooms and around tables, shaking hands and sort of slapping asses and trying to assume what's going on in Toledo. My feet have been on the ground. My ear has been to the pavement. I actually talk to the people. So I'm not really concerned about people wanting to come in right now. I'm talking about a quality of life for people who live here right now. And what I'm saying is, when our children come to school and we tell you that we understand the school to prison pipeline in 2021, and we tell you that we understand that the inner city schools are focusing more on discipline rather than mastery of skills, we are asking you not to make our kids the next generation of prisoners. We are asking you to put skill centers back in schools so by the time they leave high school, they have a trade in their hand whereby they can feed themselves. Our city has a shortage of men by mass incarceration, by legislation. I would like to call the men out. Come out of your silos. We heard that from the NAACP a couple of years ago. Yes, come out of your silos. If your children are grown, come back into the community to serve, to fill the gaps. Community raised me as a child, raised, growing up in a home of domestic violence. If it wasn't for the double dutch and the drill teams and all of that, preparing the path, I don't know where I would be. So I'm here to give that back to children and to inspire adults. We have to speak up. Thank you.
So we mentioned the quality of life. And thank you, Charmaine, for bringing that, because you guys are doing great. You're segueing into all of my questions. So we're mentioning the quality of life. If we've watched the news as of late, there has been a lot of attention on our neighborhoods, on gun violence in our neighborhoods, and we know that the current mayor has a gun violence task force. Where do you see remedying some of these problems that are so associated with our neighborhoods and the uptick in violence? Yeah.
Well, there's two ways that you have to handle the violence in our community. We've got to be real with what we're dealing with here. The idea of defund police, the idea of keeping police out of the communities has not worked, and it won't work, because people keep saying, well, this is a mental thing. This is something that we have to go out and deal with. You have to protect your kids that are on the street right now. And if you're going to wait for some of these things that the mayor is talking about, where he declared it a national health issue, when you go wait for that, then a lot of your kids are going to get killed, and 50 people have been killed since then. Thousands of people have been shot, and we got to get off of that. We've got to get the police back into our neighborhoods. We have to have our council people, our district council people in particular, start coming out and trying to mend the fences between our community and our departments, and make sure that we are doing the things that it takes to make sure that our streets are safe. If the streets aren't safe, we got absolutely nothing. And so we got to get the streets straight back together again, and that's what I will work very hard to do. On the other side of that, we got to get something to do for our youth. We have to have youth enrichment, we have to have youth recreation, and we need a citywide program that does that. But in order to get a citywide program that does that consistently, you got to figure out a way of separating it from the city, because the city has no qualms about taking money away from kids when there's an issue somewhere that they want to take care of, but they want to benefit. So we got to make sure they can't do that. So I have proposed, that I just proposed this morning on TV, a full plan to have youth enrichment, youth recreation, take over the parks, take over the pools, and to fund that through the $180 million we have right now, and continue to have it funded just like Metro Parks are funded right now. Metro Parks has thrived since they separated themselves from the city, and I am going to work to make sure that this athletic program, this athletic enrichment, this athletic opportunity gives kids a choice between games and being on a team. And I guarantee you that they'll take that choice over the other.
Thank you.
Sure.
Charmaine, do I need to repeat the question? No. Okay.
As far as the mayor's task force, as far as I know, those people are from Chicago. If it ain't working in Chicago, how does he plan to have that program implemented here, where he went somewhere where they're killing 42 on one weekend, and want those leaders from that city to come and tell Toledo what we're doing? No, we want community back. Dr. Smith, the principal of Scott High School, his research is founded on the aunties and uncles and the cousins, and how people fill the gaps in families and community. It's us. The investment from the federal level is war. The investment from the local level is police. What we're saying is we don't want to be over policed, and we certainly don't want predatory police practices. We know that there are criminals who are doing violent stuff that I would have to watch a documentary to find out, because I don't live like that. So there is a place for police. We're saying don't write policy that continually and generationally entrap us to a system that makes us dependent on anybody other than ourselves. So when we say what can we do about crime and violence and all that, we got to make sure that the children feel safe. We got to make sure that adults are speaking up and leading the way on how to mediate your own sphere. If you see something wrong, say something. All that has to be modeled again, just like hand washing and covering your mouth had to be modeled again during COVID. We are at a ground zero, but it's not a ground that's without nothing. Is what remains. Schools remain. Let's rebuild them appropriately, culturally competent, practices, policies, and procedures. We're saying the over-policing, the predatory practices must end. Not police must go away, because if something go down, we want to be able to call one. And not one that's going to come into our homes, and just follow in order. We want one that has senses to discern an environment, not just trigger happy. We want those people, good people, not kicking people, not just completely separate ourselves from police. That's not appropriate to 2021.
Okay, thank you. So we're talking about police, and if either of you have seen the latest issue in the Blade, where they were talking about that community policing forum that the mayor put together. And in that, there were some discussions about the relationships going on between the police, the community, the police chief, and the mayor's office. What will you do to build relationships, to bring forth this community policing model? Yeah.
First of all, last year, September of last year, the mayor came up with this idea of the problems with violence being a national health hazard, which was ridiculous. He didn't do anything from that point until the beginning of the year, where he assigned a person as a violence czar, whatever they want to call him. So he signed this guy as a violence guard, gave him no power, no authority to do anything. And then for 6 months, he had no staff. I don't know if he even had an office in government setting. He finally got a staff just this past month, and they got these, I can't remember what they call them, community interveners or whatever the heck they are. And as was mentioned earlier, these folks are from out of town. So now you got another 3 or 4 months of people trying to orientate themselves to the city that they don't know, and to do who knows what. So no, what we need to do is concentrate on what's going on. Right now we have a police department that that is discouraged. They are losing officers. They can't get new people to sign up. That is a disaster. So we got to deal with that. I am never going to say that we don't have bad police officers. Of course we do. But we've got to work with them and do what's appropriate to weed them out and still keep our police department strong. And that means making sure that our local people, our ministers, our district council people, everybody else, work hard to make sure that they are familiar with the people in their community that they have to serve, and have a better understanding of how to serve them without being overly brutal or anything else. And that's something that we have to work on. That is a way forward that we can depend on. And so we got to make some commitment to that and make sure that that happens. Otherwise, we are going to be dealing with this over and over again. So first thing is to get our system straight, get people off the street that shouldn't be on the street. And then we have to deal with the other side of that, which is to try to make sure that kids don't get in trouble in the first place.
What would you do if you were elected mayor? What would you do to build the relationships department with the community?
Well, the best predictor of future occurrences is present or past occurrences, and what you do is demonstrate it. When I'm in the community and I'm talking to police, they're human. A paycheck is stopping them from being regular people, though. They say we cannot take a political side because our jobs say that we can. And I'm saying that the paycheck is dividing community and people speaking up right now. And that's why the community activist is so important, the one who's willing to survive all the challenges of that so that truth is put on the table. So you're saying, what would I do? I'll do what I've already done. On June 2nd, I contacted the FBI about the mayor's practices of collusion over that police and community review board. I proved it in an essay type style in 3 pages. I'm in court right now because I was arrested in city council, just taking a seat to speak on behalf of the community. I've stood up in State of the City addresses at Wayne High School to call Mayor Wade out. I'm a disruptor. The practice right now must be to disrupt injustice. We have to stop believing that we cannot speak truth to power. There's a cost to pay. You must be willing to pay it, or at least support the one who is. Don't dog us. Community activists in Toledo are real, and if you have to be at work, appreciate the ones who are in the meetings absorbing the information, so that when we come back, we can tell you what's really going on in our community. So what I would do is what I've already done. I would be in the courtrooms, the boardrooms, talking to people on the street and demonstrating what needs to happen in a culturally competent kind of way, not an accusatory way, but building relationships from my family to groups and community, and the relationship I have with myself, enough to say I care enough about myself that I can speak up for myself, and got enough left to speak up for community because it's that important to me, regardless of the prices or coincidence. You know? Thank you.
So I'm going to switch gears and then I'm going to come back. Toledo has a reputation in terms of leadership of having a lot of old guard, right? And so we see a lot of the same recycled people in positions, same recycled friends. What would you do to bring in some of the youth, the younger professionals, the young and upcoming college students, young adults? What would you do to get them engaged in the city of Toledo if you were mayor? Yeah.
Well, you know, we have a brain drain in Toledo. We know that. We know that our kids leave and then they don't come back, and they don't want to come back for various reasons. We have to change that. You know, I'm fortunate to have two children that are about that age. My daughter's here, and my son's in Fort Wayne. But that I understand some of what their frustration is, and I know that it is real because you have the old guard. But the thing is that it's like the definition of insanity. You do the same thing over and over again and expect that